So I thought that this CJ should have been bigger news than it was, but this week, Justin Bieber had someone close to him give a statement to everyone. It was announced Justin Bieber he was not and does not claim to have been a victim of Sean Combs. And I just want people to understand that I think this was deliberate on his part, on Bieber's part, to disclose this now during the first week of trial. To I think he was trying to help Sean Combs. You know, Sean Combs was a kind of a mentor for Bieber, and I know that that's now been recast by people as something nefarious, but I think that he actually was a kind of a mentor for Bieber, and had a friendship there. And I'm sure that for someone like Bieber, who has a different understanding of Combs, it's been hard to sit by and watch this person be caricatured into like a child molester and stuff like that, right? And I'm sure that's been hard for Justin Bieber to see that, believing it's not true. And so I think what happened here is that because people now are seeing through Cassie's testimony that the government case against Sean Combs Diddy is really not the house of horrors that people believed it would be in terms of talking about actual trafficking and drugging and stuff like that. I mean, look, I know the trial's not over, so I'll change my mind if we get new information. But I think that this week, a lot of people woke up to the fact that, okay, this is not the situation that we thought it was. And I wonder if Bieber basically thought, well, okay, since people are kind of starting to see the truth on this, then it's time for me to let people know, you don't need to worry about something happening to me. Okay. That's something that happened to me. I'm not a part of this. I was never abused. So I don't know. That's just my thought. Did you have anything else to add on Bieber?
Yeah, I felt like, he was also doing his own little PR work because it was heavy in the media that, Justin Bieber's, um, one of the victims, or just, that video where, he was hanging out at Diddy's house and all these things. So
Right.
I did feel like it was a lot of PR, him clarifying that he wasn't a part of it. And one of the things that I found compelling was that he said, like, this should be about the victims of, like, the woman or whatever. I think he used the word woman on there. And he didn't want it to be about him. But I mean, in any case, you're not going to say, yes, this happened to me, because in my opinion, all these people who want to be a voice for other survivors or other victims, it ends up being worse for them, because then their story is amplified. They get so much more backlash for it. So I'm saying, if Bieber was a victim of Diddy, or any of that was true, you wouldn't want to come out and say it, because it's not going to benefit him in any way to come out.
Oh, well, certainly, certainly. Let me just ask you though, have you ever seen any actual evidence anywhere, or even any actual firsthand testimony of anyone saying that anything happened to Bieber? Or because I feel like it's all been
Online speculation, because of the fact, and they've done it with Usher as well, because of the fact that there's these interviews that seem, kind of off to people, like when he was on the late night show with Bieber, and he's like, you're not supposed to talk about our private life, or things like that, where people take it out of context. But no, I
right.
haven't seen anything. And because people know what the industry is like now that Epstein has come out and Harvey Weinstein has come out, so people just speculate on their own. So no, there isn't anything. You're right. There isn't anything hard evidence alluding to that, other than just online speculation of it. And that's gotta suck for Bieber, because his career right now is really, he canceled that one tour. There's all this talk about him and Scooter Brown and the mismanagement of his money. Like, he doesn't need all this piling on him. And I think that's why he ended up speaking out, because he's like, I've got enough on my plate to deal with than the speculation.
Yeah, yeah. Also, probably we'll never hear anything from J Lo, but it would be interesting to hear what her perspective is on him. I mean, I watched her documentary that she did with, Ben Affleck, and part of that documentary and the movie that she made about around it, or the movie that she made in tandem with it, they were all about her love life. And she did mention that she had dated someone who just kind of like roughed her up, sort of like throw against a wall or that sort of thing. But she said it was rough and disrespectful, but she'd never been hit before. But I wonder if we'll ever hear anything from her. Okay. The last time that you and I talked, CJ, we talked about Cassie's testimony for the prosecution, and I think we had mixed feelings or mixed observations about that. And I really expected that the defense would really lay into her, perhaps in cross examination. And it seems like, in terms of their tonally, it was very restrained, but she did ask her a number of questions. I really think that her cross examination of Cassie, it really did, in a number of ways, dismantle for me the prosecution's case, or the idea that they're trying to get across, which is this notion that Cassie was an unwilling participant, that this was not consensual, that this was basically a kind of sex slavery. And I know that there are legal particulars here by which Sean Combs might be found guilty and go to prison for the rest of his life. Prostitution is not legal. I may think that that's not fair and that's not right, but it's not legal. And so I understand that there are legal dimensions to this. I think that a number of us are looking at this and we're seeing that there is serious doubt that this was not consensual, that this woman at times, and these texts came out, and as you know, came out in the last few days, a text between her and Sean Combs, Diddy, showing great enthusiasm for these freak-offs, and also seemed to show Sean Combs asking for her input. Do you want to do this? Is this okay? What about this date? This does not look, as I said online, this does not look anything like sex slavery to me. This looks consensual. And so to me, I want to talk to you about your impressions, but I found that what was really effective from the defense's perspective about this cross-examination was it really exposed that there was a lot more consensuality in Cassie's activities with the freak-offs than the prosecution would have us believe. And I understand that there's this argument still that, well, but also this guy beat her on various occasions and no one is denying that. It's horrible. And as I've been saying, I think he should do some prison time for battery and domestic violence. People say that's the environment that she was in. So of course she felt like she had to show enthusiasm and this and that. But I'm just not reading it that way. And so I don't know. I'm curious about your perspective. Tell me what you thought of her testimony.
Yeah, I actually have seen that as well online, where there's this whole perception of this being kind of like a trauma bonded compliance or Stockholm syndrome. I've also seen mentioned, and this is people who follow it from the psychological perspective, which basically,
coercive control too, right?
Yeah, and not everyone is as educated on this new paradigm of what the verbiage of this is, how women can react in a certain situation after they've been in it for so long and all this. So I do understand that perspective. And there are two jurors on the jury that are social workers and who would understand those concepts. But for the layman who may not, understand a lot of these different concepts, it does come off as that it was consensual.
I want to show the audience. So I posted this. To me, this is the kind of stuff that it's just, and the jury has seen this too, because this was verified in courts. They read through these different messages. This is the kind of thing that is such a head scratcher to me. He says to her, "I miss you already." And she says, "Me too." And then he says, "When do you want to freak off? LOL." And she says, "LOL, I'm just going to change. I'm always ready to freak off. LOL." Then he says,